Alright, well, scrap's up, and I think it's time for this old pile of garbage to complete its trip to the scrap yard. So, I opened the hood and she just came on around on me and hit the ground, so whatever. I will save the bear. Don't worry about him. Everybody wants to see a Detroit Runaway with an operable cooling system, so that's what I'm going to give you here. Only going to have one fan belt, but that belt's in pretty decent shape, so I'll put it back on there and just tighten the living shit out of it, and maybe it'll pull the fan. I think it'll hold coolant. It doesn't have any in it though, so I'll get that filled up. Probably go ahead and pull this air intake off here because it ain't doing nothing anyway. She's wide open. Okay, I got the air intake off there, belt back on it, and got it as tight as a banjo string, so we'll see how long that stays on. The bad news is it is not going to hold coolant. I dumped a couple gallons of straight water in it, and this is what we're getting out of the other side of it. So she's going to be a leaker. That's all right. I'll fill it up right before we fire it up, and we'll have cooling for at least a little while. Got the valve cover off of it here. Only got just a little bit of dirt in it. It'll be all right. I hope it enjoys that. Pulling this valve cover off, you know, it kind of just occurred to me, this thing was just a miserable piece of shit even when it was brand new. I mean, what a pile of junk to put the motor up under the cab like this. Just miserable to work on, miserable to drive. I mean, just a piece of shit. So, here's the old engine tag. So she's a 6L71N is the official designation, 426 cubic inch displacement, a whopping 239 horsepower at 2300 RPM, and probably about, I don't know, at least 150 foot-pounds of torque or something. Probably fixing to get the shit stung out of me. And it's worth saying that yes, this is a naturally aspirated 671. That'll be sure to generate some comments. There's a few people that don't understand that just because it's got a blower doesn't mean that it is not naturally aspirated. If you actually understand the way these work, they're still considered naturally aspirated by General Motors and Detroit Diesel. So anyway, that's what I got. I'm gonna work on this just a little bit here. There's actually no stuck injectors right now. There's fixing to be about 6 stuck injectors, so let me get to work on that. It's been a while since I had this thing running. I'm gonna give her a little test start here before I put it in wide glide mode to make sure it's actually gonna run. That should be 5th gear, whatever you want to call it. I think this is 10 speed. It's high gear on the low side, so I think that'll work. There we go. Oh yeah. Alright, well, it's gonna run. I didn't get it picked up fast enough. It stalled out, but that'll work. Let's try this one more time. Let's go 1 gear lower. Alright, so we're just about ready here. Got a water hose rigged up. Like I showed you, the radiator's leaking down there, so we'll turn that on to just a trickle once it starts losing enough water. That way it can rejuvenate itself. And based on previous experience with the comment section there, I want to clarify something for you real quick. This is a piece of shit. It's not your dad, it's not your uncle, it's not your grandpa, it's not a dog, it's not a cat, doesn't feel any pain. There's no farmers that want to use it to haul their grain to the river. In fact, there's 2 farmers right here. Either one of you want to use this piece of shit to haul your grain?
Negative. Hell no.
They're out. Pretty sure you could buy a new Peterbilt cheaper than you could put this piece of shit back on the road. This motor didn't land any troops on the beaches of Normandy. It's not a piece of history. It's just a piece of shit. It's a chunk of scrap iron. It's worth the same amount right now as it's going to be when I get done with it. And it is what it is. So with all that being said, I think we're ready to see what's going to happen here. Shit, I can't get it in the gear that I want it in. Rock me just a little bit, I can't get it in gear. Hang on. Let's see here. All right, let's go. I'm not sure what happened. It's boiling. No, the water hose ain't in there no more. That one sounded way better than any of the other two, and it was going probably a little faster.
Yeah.
I don't think it was, I don't know. It was hammered down though.
I don't think so.
Man, there's oil everywhere.
I noticed that.
I don't think it had anything to do with the water. I think it had to do with loss of oil. There's oil all inside this cab, all over the door.
Oh.
Yeah. Look at all, this is all oil too. Yeah. Missed it all over here. Something blew apart. We lost the oil.
Yep, I believe you're right. That's probably what killed it, the oil.
Yeah.
Ain't got no oil in it. Well, oil part started
pretty early, yeah. Well, another one bites the dust. All right, good news. What seemed like certain environmental destruction has now been avoided. Got the oil cleaned up. So let me see if I can figure out how to get this motor out of here pretty quick. Just noticed the air compressor's got a hole in the block. Get pretty well good at that. Trying to get this greasy pile of shit apart. Man, I hate these things. Just a disaster. Got the clutch out of it there. Pilot bearing looks like it's seen better days. Yeah. Just got the valve cover pulled off. And valve spring and bridge is laying in the head there. So it seems like we've probably had some valve to piston contact here on number 6. Got another one here on number 4 I just found when I took the bridges off. Piston probably hit the valve on that one too. Here's the number 6 injector. Things are not looking good for number 6 at all. This is number 4, looks about like number 6. looks like number 1 made it, number 2 made it, number 3 made it, number 4 not so much. That used to be the end of the valve right there. Number 5's alright, and number 6 has seen better days too, like number 4. One, two, three. There's 4, number 5, and number 6. There's the end of another valve. Yeah, so that's what happens when you get one going way too fast. The valves tend to come into contact with the pistons, and things go to shit pretty quick after that happens. If you look right here, you can see where a valve broke off and turned sideways and went through the top of the piston. And while we're talking about holes in places that they shouldn't be, maybe you can see this a little better now. I've got it over here in the light. So what you're looking at right there is one of the rod journals on the crankshaft of the air compressor. So yeah, things went south pretty badly in there too. Alright, I've got 3 of the liners out and the 3 rods and pistons that were running in these liners. Liners actually don't look too bad. They're not scuffed. I mean, there's a little bit of scuffing, but nothing severe. And the pistons all look okay. Those 3 anyway. It was not heat or lack of oil that killed this one. It was the valves that got into the pistons that killed it. That's what the holes in the block look like without the liners in them. Obviously number 6 has come apart pretty catastrophically because that piston is coming out with that liner, and that rod is still bolted to the crankshaft here. Well, so I gave that liner just a real modest tap with the old 12-pounder there, and she went ahead and broke right in half. So there's the bottom side of the piston that's still wedged in the liner here, and there's the rest of the rod, well, all of the rod and the rest of the piston. Got all this out of here. There's the top half, there's the bottom half. That piston's not just totally seized in there, it's kind of stuck, but it's not locked up by any means. I think you get the idea. Piston broke in half, and there's both pieces of it. So all the bearings look good. It didn't even start to spin any bearings or anything like that. It still rotates just fine. There's no issues at all there. So I think that's about as good a runaway as you're ever going to see. I mean, it didn't slinging your rods out of the block or anything, but realistically they usually aren't going to unless there's already some kind of a underlying weakness in the bottom end. You're typically always going to get valves into pistons in one of these when it starts to run away, and that's what's going to end up taking it out. But not only was this one getting the full shot of ungoverned fuel, but it also started sucking on its own oil too pretty good there about halfway through, or whenever you started seeing it smoke white really bad. At that point is when it started drinking its own oil. I don't know if we lost a blower seal or exactly what happened, but the entire inside of this air box is completely coated in wet oil, and that's what all that white smoke was. So we had all the fuel going to it, no governor, plus drinking its own engine oil at the same time. And it never did run completely out of oil. It still had oil in it. Right here when I started taking it apart, I drained about, I don't know, probably 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons out of it. So it wasn't completely out of oil yet, but it was getting close. And that fan belt, it actually, I forgot to mention this or show it to you when the truck was still together, but that fan belt never came apart. It pulled that fan the whole time, which is pretty amazing. Well, I got the old valve cover cleaned up here. I'll stick this on eBay, and I'll put the eBay auction link in the video description here in case somebody wants it. And figure I'll throw in the bears and the Bruin badges too. Might as well, you can just have it all. That's a good valve cover too, if you actually need to use it. It's not broken or busted anywhere that I've seen. So I reckon that's about it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.